great college coaches are guys who understand that, yeah, being on the field is important, but that's a very small part of our job, the recruiting aspect. And I say recruiting not just in terms of high school guys, transfer portal guys, all that kind of stuff, but every day you're recruiting your own players to stay.
Episode 104 featured Coach Adam Griggs, the offense coordinator at the University of Rochester. For more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
Coach Griggs and I, we originally got connected a couple years back when I was just getting started on my Coach Tools endeavor. And Coach Griggs, he's been at the University of Rochester since 2018, so he's heading into his, I guess, seventh season coming up in 2024. To officially get things started, Coach, can you just share with the audience about your background and how you've ultimately gotten involved in your current role at University of Rochester?
Yeah, it was funny, like a lot of coaches, I went to college not expecting to coach. I went to Bentley University in Boston, Massachusetts. I had a great playing career, loved my time there. I am one of the biggest nerds you'll find in college football. I love school and was going to go off to a PR firm in Europe. Next thing I know, it got delayed till December, so I had a season to decide what I wanted to do, and I decided to coach college football. Next thing you know, I'm decommitting, I guess you could say, from my job, and I've been coaching ever since. So this will be going into my 18th season of college football coaching, between Division II levels at Bentley University and Assumption College. When I left there, I ended up heading to MIT, where I worked for 1 year with Coach Martinovich while I was trying to figure out kind of my next move. Loved my time there, loved working with him. Next thing I know, a couple months later, Chad gives me a call. Hey, do you want to go rebuild this program in New York? Well, why not? Like, let's go after it. And been up here ever since as we kind of get this thing rolling, going into hopefully this being the big year for us.
Yes, sir. I didn't know that about you. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
So,
it's one of those things. There are plenty of guys who I'm sure went to college knowing they wanted to coach. I liked football. I grew to love football through college and the coaching staff I had at Bentley. And next thing you know, I couldn't imagine what normal people do in August when they're not in preseason camp. So good thing I still have yet to had to figure that out yet.
yeah. So just looking at your background a little bit at your playing days at Bentley. So can you talk about how that's helped shape you as a coach, going into your early days and now obviously into, your most recent days?
Yeah. So my playing career was not being some highly recruited dude or anything like that. I came on. I can't tell you how many times in those first 2 weeks as a freshman, I was like, man, these guys are all bigger than me, faster than me, stronger than me. I was a defensive end. 2 days later, they moved me to D tackle. I couldn't stop the run, so they moved me to offensive line. I played tackle. I couldn't pass block. They moved me to guard. I couldn't run block. They moved me to center, and I ended up starting for 3.5 years and being an All-American and academic All-American. So I think that really kind of forced me to realize, like, I wasn't the superior athlete like everybody else. I need to kind of know what was going on. Really dove in head first. My offensive coordinator was a guy, Paul McGonigal, who's the head coach at Endicott, which is a Division III powerhouse now. He's done a tremendous job. But I learned more from that man just sitting down every Monday watching film and realized that, that can kind of change everything. So I've taken a lot of approach with my guys very similar to how Paul did with me in terms of, and I think Gerard Mayo had this, I don't want to tell you what to think, but how to think. And that has helped my coaching career and being able to be versatile on offense and special teams, and also developing kind of the rooms as an offensive line group, and how these guys need to work together. So I really do relate almost everything that I've gotten to from my playing days at Bentley University.
Yeah, that's really cool too. I have a similar experience playing at Gettysburg. So my first 2 seasons I was out with injury. My third season, and I got recruited as a defensive tackle. So obviously I didn't play and they needed some offensive line guys. So I ended up moving to offensive line. And I know we haven't met in person yet, but I'm not the biggest guy either. So I'm, 5'11", like I think I played at like 250. So I was an undersized offensive lineman. So like you, I had to really dive in head first to, technique understanding what other people were doing around me and just being a technician. What other advice would you give yourself? Like maybe like when you were first getting into coaching after your playing days at Bentley?
Uh, be prepared. I think, especially coming from a place like Bentley, where I can't tell you the amount of money that my friends make. Going to high academic schools prepared me with my education to do a lot of the job in coaching, but you know, uh, so often the answer is your level of education, your level of work should equal your direct compensation. And if you're looking to get into coaching because you want to be the D-line guy at Ohio State and make a couple $1 million, that's great. But there's a reason that's only, I don't know, 10 guys in the world who coach college football and are able to make that kind of money. You got to love what you do. I completely understand that one of the things everybody says is, I want to be a mentor. I want to be somebody who changes kids' lives. And I agree with that. There are also a lot of ways to do that. You can be a teacher, you can be a social worker, you can volunteer, you can do all that kind of stuff. You also just need to love the game. And when I say that, if there's one thing that I could give any young guy is spend time on whiteboards, spend time talking stuff out. I think there are so many young coaches right now who go to a clinic, they take the notes, and then they try to regurgitate that information to be successful with it. But the greatest thing that you can do is absorb so much of that in the ways that things are designed and the way things are taught, so that you can synthesize your own ideas. Get John Strollo's stuff, Herb Hand's stuff, get their information, so that you can figure out the science of offensive line play or DB play, things like that. Like, make yourself somebody who's hungry to learn a lot of things that's going to make you a better coach. Don't just go to a clinic, copy down a couple plays and say, I got better today. You got to dive in head first and wrap your mind around that. And the only way you're going to do that, and I would tell you, the greatest thing that happened for me as a coach was living with the defensive coordinator at Bryant University, Anthony Barisi. And I can't tell you how many nights when we lived together, coaching actually at other teams, we weren't even on the same staff, that we pull up a whiteboard and get into arguments for hours on a Friday night. But the more you think about your job, your craft, the better you're going to be. And the more you're going to learn how to think and how to design and think for yourself and synthesize ideas. That's something that I think really differentiates a great coach from a good coach.
Yeah. And I think just to that point, as a Division III athlete and you being a Division II high academic guy, I think that's what I learned is not only to regurgitate that information, but also to think for yourselves and understand the how and the why. And I think, being a coach, that's probably, I can't speak from experience in the college realms, but that's seems to be a reoccurring theme from my conversations.
And the other thing I would tell you, even beyond football, is you got to love recruiting. I all the love in the world. I think youth coaches and high school coaches have to do more than I do. Like, they have to take kids with sometimes no experience and turn them into football players. And those guys are incredible teachers. College coaches, go learn from high school coaches. Like, you want to learn how to be a technician, I guarantee you there's that 55-year-old O-line coach at the high school down the road who that's what he does. The difference, I would say, for a lot of us is recruiting. Recruiting is a grind. Recruiting is making a lot of relationships quick. It's about being as transparent and honest as possible, knowing that there are other coaches who aren't going to be transparent. And you're going to be faced at a lot of points in that with who you are from a character standpoint. Are you going to be honest with that kid? Or are you going to say what it takes to get that kid to commit to you? Here, and especially at this point in my career, it's just about being genuine. Like, this school fits a lot of people, but there are a lot of reasons not to choose us. It's just as important for me to help a kid figure out why this isn't the place for them as it is for them to realize this is their dream home and a place that's going to change their lives. But when it comes to recruiting, like, be ready to drive for 10 hours. Be ready to be all over the place. Be ready for doors to be shut in your face. Be ready to be ghosted. I think great college coaches are guys who understand that, yeah, being on the field is important, but that's a very small part of our job. The recruiting aspect And I say recruiting not just in terms of high school guys, transfer portal guys, all that kind of stuff, but every day you're recruiting your own players to stay, to make it worth it. You know, we're not scholarship, even at D2, those were small scholarship. Why should a kid continue playing football and putting all that time and work and dedication into it when they're not being paid for it? You got to make them feel the environment that this is a place you want to be, and they can see what they're going to gain from it. So, you know, as much as I focus on, you know, be a good coach and understand the game, there is a lot of time put in that has nothing to do with football if you're going to be a great coach.
Yeah. And another recurring theme that I have on this podcast too is just the importance of relationships, not only with your players, but also with, you know, the schools that you're going to recruit, with your fellow coaches, with the administration. And and I think anything that you do in life, relationships are paramount, you know. Nobody nobody that's been successful has gotten to that point without, you know, having the strong ability to make relationships.
Mhm. And those relationships are just as much about the time you put in and being there and having a product that those guys want. Yeah, I get that, but um, the way that you handle a high school coach, for example, the way you handle his kids and recruit them, whether you sign them or not, goes a long way to that. Um, you're being judged by everything. You know, if I have 500 kids in my database right now that are related to me, that could be 500 coaches who are waiting to see how am I going to handle their boy or their kid. And you got to be on point with that. And I think so often, if you're genuine and you're honest, you're going to be able to establish a relationship of being that guy, of being a guy that a coach wants to pick up the phone and call, or wants to tell their kid, hey, that's a great program that you're looking at. But the ability to make those relationships, sometimes when we say that, it comes off as like a salesman thing. Like, can I, you know, shake hands and kiss babies and all that kind of stuff? No offense, but high school football coaches aren't stupid. You know,
Yeah.
college coaches aren't stupid. They know when you're just talking the right stuff they want to hear at the moment versus the actions and how you handle things. I also understand that, you know, there are certain schools out there that the doors are going to be open for them every single time. And sometimes those guys take advantage of it. Sometimes they don't handle the kids the right way. They don't handle the coaches the right way because they know that that coach has to open the door for them the next year. But it all comes back. Like, there is a lot of karma when it comes to recruiting. And if you do things the right way, I think it does pay off for you in the long run. And if you do things the wrong way, it's going to come around at some point.
Yeah, and it's really interesting just being in the realm without actually coaching in the realm of college football, because from my experience, I'm kind of like recruiting coaches to be a part of my program, and just hearing about, you know, other coaches' experiences recruiting players, you know, I think the the main the main like essence of recruiting comes down to instilling confidence in that other person. And it's not a false confidence. You have to be genuine, like you were saying. And, you know, it also comes back to like not being that, you know, that sales guy or whatever. I think if you're genuine and you care about the other person and you're straight up about it, like you were saying, like University of Rochester, like you're saying, it's a great program. There's a lot of benefits, but it's not right for everybody. Like, I
Yep.
think that's the exact right way to go about it.
And I think so often we forget that when we were 18, if we got to be recruited twice, we do everything right the second time. But you get one shot and you make a lot of mistakes. You know, on that, I think just as much of a relationship. I've had guys who committed to other programs and then transferred to me later on because when a kid commits to a school, you remember how excited you were. I remember how excited I was. Hearing the stories of some of these coaches who basically badmouth the kid to their face for them making a decision versus, you know, be humble, congratulate the kid. It's his first major adult decision. Um, why not be happy for the kid and realize if you're confident in your own program, hey, it's all right. We're going to sign a kid who is the right fit here. And for that kid who, even if you think, you know what, I don't really understand why he's going to that program, or I think he's doing, that kid will probably figure it out. And when he does, he's going to turn back to the guys who established that. So that's along with the relationships. It's easy to say that for the guys that you have success with and you get to commit to. But I think the relationships you build with just as many guys that you don't commit, and how you handle that, and being excited for a kid who just went through the recruiting process and found his home, the place where he's going to get his degree. He's going to meet friends that'll be in his wedding. He's going to compete and have stories he tells his kids someday. Why do you have an ego that because that kid said no to your school, you have to take it out on him? And I think that's one of the things we hear about it from assistant coaches. And I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that especially young college coaches make is taking it personally. Like, you didn't choose my school. It's like, dude, come on, man. It's not always about you. All right. Let the kid figure out where he wanted to go. At some point, you played college football and you made a decision for your reasons. It didn't mean you hated the other guys. It meant you just found the place for you. And it's okay if it's not with me. That would be one thing I think for any young college coach that I would tell them is, like, be thankful that the kid called you and had the relationship where he wanted to be transparent and open with you, not just post it on Twitter and say, tough crap, coach.
Yeah. No, I think you said it perfectly, Coach. Any last words you want to share with the audience today?
I think whether you're a coach, whether you're a player listening to this, anything like that, I think college football is excellent. I'm a big advocate for the opportunities that now exist with NILs. I'm very excited about the guys who get opportunities to move up through different programs, internship programs, all this kind of stuff. It is a great game. It is something that I think for a guy who myself, having worked on my MBA at Bentley, getting my master's in education here at Rochester, working on a data science program at MIT, if you understand the educational value that you get and the lessons you learn from a game like football, you can be great. And as a coach, if you understand and find ways of kind of tying every play, every aspect of a game or practice to things in life, I think that's where you end up really making the difference we all talk about. So, in your individual meetings, when you have 100 clips of film you got to get through and, installing plays and all that, you take 5 minutes to kind of connect that to real life. I think you're going to find that it's a really rewarding career, over the long haul.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach Griggs, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being on the podcast today, and best of luck as you continue with recruiting.
Thanks, man. Anytime. Great talking to you this morning.